Hi, I'm Diane Kimsey, and I am the math consulting teacher for preschool through fifth grade for USD 501. Today, we're going to talk about Eureka Math. It's the math series that our district uses, and we're going to just get an introduction as to what is Eureka Math. And so with that being said, let's get started. All right, so I'm going to bring up on my screen the Great Minds website. Our district has provided for each teacher a membership to the Great Minds website. So you will be getting this as an email sometime probably pretty soon here when the school year begins. And so make sure you're paying attention in your email for something that's called Great Minds. Please don't go out and join on your own, because if you join on your own, you don't get all the different apps that we as a school district provide for you. All right. And so this again is the Great Minds website, and it's what a lot of the teachers use instead of carrying the math book from school to home, home to school. Those math books get kind of heavy after a while. So your math book is 100% right here on the Great Minds website, and we're going to take a look at that today. It's right here in the app that is called Eureka Navigator, and it used to be referred to as the Digital Suite, and so that's why it says Digital Suite in parentheses. I'm going to go ahead and get started right here. So we'll give it a moment to come up. And here it comes. Very good. All right, so this is the navigator. I'm going to go ahead and move it up. USD 501, we use Eureka Math from pre-kindergarten all the way through 12th grade. And so as you can see going across the top here, this is the pre-K through 5th grade, the 6th grade, 7th and 8th grade, and then the 9th through 12th grade. We use something else for calculus. All right, let's go back to the PK through 5th grade, because that's the part we're concerned about. When you get this program, when you get access to this program, you will really want to start using it immediately. On the right-hand side, it shows breaking up into the 4 quarters, and on the left-hand side, broken up into the 3, so the trimesters, okay? In California and several other states across the nation, they use trimesters. Here in Kansas, and of course for Topeka USD 501, we use quarters. And so by looking at the right-hand side, it gives you kind of a strong indicator. So for instance, over here for first quarter, let's look here at 4th grade. You will teach all of Module 1, all of Module 2, and you will get started in Module 3. See how that line comes across? And for 5th grade there, you will have taught all of Module 1 and part of Module 2. Now, what is a module? Each of these modules is a different book for you to have as a teacher, and each of the students has a different workbook for each of these modules. And so if we look over here at 2nd grade, there are 8 modules. That's 8 different books that you, the teacher, that you have, and the students have 8 different workbooks, along with what we call the fluency book. And so 2nd graders have 9 books, all right? And so that's quite a bit. That's, again, another reason why I use this and I didn't carry my books back and forth. All right, we're going to focus on grade 4 right now. And going across the top here, in green are your grades. And if I came over here to grade 1, so I'm just going to go to grade 1 for just a second, I can click right here on the green that says grade 1. And when I do, it breaks apart my modules into this type of a graph. And so I can see each and every one of the different lessons. And I can also just click on the book. I can just click on the book. And so the book are each of these different parts of the grid. All right, we're going to look at grade 4, and I'm going to bring up module number 1. And here we go. So when I look at module number 1, I notice over here on the right is the area that we're going to focus in for a moment. I notice over here on the right that it's going to take me 25 days to teach this. And later I'm going to do another video, and it's called Acing the Pacing, and it's going to talk about how do you get through those days? How do you make sure that you successfully complete Eureka Math by that last day of school? So it's going to take us approximately 25 days to teach Module 1. Again, this is book number 1. What we're going to be talking about in book number 1 is place value, it's rounding, algorithms, which of course are math problems, and then we're going to be talking about for addition and subtraction. All right. Right here, I see where it says focus grade level standards. And this is going to be the first thing I'm going to pay attention to, because with Eureka Math, with math, it's not about teaching the next page, it's about teaching the standards. And so I'm going to click right here on this drop down arrow, and it tells me which standards, the 4th grade standards, I'm going to be teaching in this particular module. There are quite a few standards here. You will see where some of them are repeating. So we're going to do MBT 1, so that repeats. And so you will notice that some of them do repeat. Here's MBT B4 and here's MBT B4 up here. I don't know about you, but I don't memorize my standards. And so all I have to do is click on it. And it's so important that you know about this particular part. And so when I click on it, it's going to tell me the domain, and so that MBT is the domain. In other words, what does MBT stand for? Numbers and operations in base 10, okay? And then the cluster, that's the letter A part. So this is generalized place value understanding for multi-digit whole numbers, and it's standard number 1. And so it's so important that we know, what is this? And so we want the kids to be able to recognize that in a multi-digit whole number, a digit, so meaning any number, in one place represents 10 times what it represents in the place to its right. For example, recognize that 700 divided by 70 equals 10 by applying concepts of place value and division. This concept of 10 times greater and 10 times less is a very difficult one for 4th grade, and it's the first time it's introduced. And your 5th grade teachers really want you to focus on and get this well taught, because in 5th grade they talk about the powers of 10. All right, now we come on down and we find out, well, when is this taught? How often is this taught? And it tells me that it's going to be in grade 4. And look at all these different modules. It's going to be taught in module 1, module 3, module 4, and module 6. So it is taught often. And then it's taught in module 5, or excuse me, in grade 5, module 1, 2 times. All right, it seems like it's being taught a lot of times, right? And so what we're going to look at right here is this. So we're in module 1 right now, the very first book. So here's the lesson area. So it's going to be taught in lesson 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, and 10. However, it's taught in the area of the book that is called the fluency. And so I'm going to show you where the fluency is. This is like the first 3 to 5 minutes of your math lesson. And it's so important that you get this in every single day. That fluency is also, it's also taught in fluency in module 3. It's taught in fluency in module 4. And in module 6, it's taught in one lesson. So in other words, one paper and pencil lesson. All right, I'm going to go back to where we were. And so again, this is module 1, 25 days. I'm going to look at my standards and see what is it that's expected of me to teach. And I would take the time, my friends, and I would read each of those, see what is it that the state of Kansas says I must teach to my students in order for them to be successful when the state assessments roll around. And then when we come on down a little bit further, the next caret pointed down, these are called carets. The next one pointed down happens to be foundational standards. In other words, where was this taught to the kids in previous grades? And so it's showing me where place value and rounding and estimating was taught to kids in addition and subtraction in 3rd grade. Okay, and so if I had a student that was really having a difficult time with this, and you know, our kids stopped attending school just right before spring break, so back in March. And so as a 4th grade teacher, we might need to take a look at this and see, what did this look like in 3rd grade? To have a better, maybe perhaps way of teaching it to our 4th graders the very first day of school. And then these are what we call the mathematical practices. And there are 7 of them, and 4 of the mathematical practices are being taught down here. okay, are going to be taught in this module. Also in this module are the different methods of instruction to be delivered to the students. So I can click on this and it gives me ideas. We're going to do sprints and it's giving me an idea. It gives me the language and how to give a sprint and so on. So it does give examples on how to do things in the module. All right, and then I'm going to come back up. The terminology, and oh my gosh, is this ever so important that you're getting the vocabulary across to the students. And you must be comfortable and confident with the vocabulary before you can teach the vocabulary to the children. And so it's very important that you take a look, take a moment out of your life and look over what's the vocabulary that's expected of me to teach to the kids. I see the word variables in here. That one's difficult. Equal, less than, and greater than signs, not the alligator mouth, all right? We need to use the actual terminology with the children. If kids know what a Stegosaurus rex is, they need to know what lesser than and greater than is, all right? So it's not the big alligator mouth or crocodile mouth, whatever. They need to know about what are add-ins. They need to know the word algorithm. They're going to see the word algorithm a great deal. They need to know what bundling means, and you as a teacher need to know this. And so it's important to know this vocabulary, compose and decompose, endpoints, and so on. All right. And so it's very important that you take the time to also know the Eureka Math terminology. If you're not teaching the Eureka Math terminology to your students, let's say, again, we're looking at a 4th grade lesson here. Let's say that your class, they were 3rd graders last year, and let's pretend they came from 2 different classrooms. And so classroom A, the teacher used the vocabulary. She used the Eureka style of how to do things. The teacher in class B, though, was like, I'm going to do it my way because this isn't how I was taught. I'm going to do it my way. Now the kids are coming to you, and you're talking about bundling. You're using the Eureka Math terminology as is expected of you. Only half of your class is going to be successful, all right? And so you cannot damage your children, if you will, by choosing to teach them the way that you were taught or the way that you think is better. You must do it the Eureka way. We are a Eureka school district. Here's the materials list, and so the items that are needed in order to be more successful in teaching this module. You happen to be pretty lucky. On this one, you just need dry erase markers, whiteboards. I use construction paper and different color printer paper just to give the kids a change of pace and put it in page protectors and let them write on top of it with the dry erase markers. And then we have what are called the whole number place value disc, and you will have those in your classroom. All right. And then there's the assessment summary. There's scaffolding down here to tell you how to better teach this to children that are English language learners. All right, we're going to go on back now and take a look. So this is where we were. So that right-hand side is extremely important information before you get started. Now we're going to bring up the teacher's book. I did not take that teacher's book back and forth because it's right here on the computer. So right here is a PDF. It says teacher module. I'm going to go ahead and click on it. And boom, just like that, the teacher module is going to pop up. And the teacher module for module 1, 4th grade, happens to be, as you can see up here at the top, 316 pages long. Again, that's kind of a heavy book to be carrying back and forth to school and in your backpack or school bag, whatever. So again, it's right here. I'm going to go down, close your eyes so you don't get seasick here. I'm going to go down to the table of contents, and this is where I'm going to get started. Notice that lesson A begins on page 20. So there are 19 pages of very important information for you to read before you ever get to the very first lesson. The way that Eureka Math is set up is the lessons progress from what we call, it's like going up a ladder, all right? Everybody's brave enough to go on that first rung of the ladder. Maybe you're brave enough to get to the top, to the middle of the ladder. I'm not very brave to go to the top of the ladder. And so the way that the lessons are set up are to help you get brave in going up that ladder. They're going to progress. And so that's the word progression. They also are set up and so that you start off by using what is concrete. So a manipulative, something that they can touch, something they can manipulate, something they can change, something they can move around, all right? And then from the concrete is going to move to what is called representational, where they're starting to draw pictures to go with this. And then finally to a level A, which is called oh my gosh, I just went blank, which is called abstract. Sorry about that. So they're going to go from concrete to representational to abstract, and that abstract means they're writing the actual math problem. And so let's take a look. Each of these books are divided into topics. And so the topics are very much like if you're reading a novel, they're the chapters. And so topic A, let's go with chapter 1. We're going to be talking about place value of multi-digit whole numbers. Okay. So, you know, kids are going to use a template to help them. That can be part of the concrete, all right? So using a template. And so those place value discs, they could be manipulating and moving those around. And so they're going to be creating a multi-digit number. And they're going to compare multi-digit numbers. So if they're comparing, obviously there's more than one. And then topic C, they're going to start rounding. And oh my gosh, the kids do really, really well with the tens place value. They do pretty decent with the hundreds place value. But then we get into the thousands, the 10,000s, the 100,000s, and the millions place value. And it gets pretty complicated for them. Notice then we're going to take a mid-module assessment, and that's on page 153. And then we get into topic D, E, F. D, we're going to do multi-digit whole numbers, take a look, addition, and E with subtraction, and then F with word problems, and then they take the end of the module assessment. Now, what I love with the assessments that Eureka provides, I love that they also provide a rubric to give you an idea to, is this a perfect answer or a almost got it answer? And so I love the rubric. Now, before we ever turn to page 1, or lesson 1, and take a look at what is it that I need to teach the kids, here's what you must do. Time out. You must take a look at the assessment. What is it that the kids are going to be tested over? Well, if they're going to be tested over it, you as the teacher need to teach it, right? So let's take a look at that mid-assessment module. It's on page 153. I'm going to come up here to the top and type in 153. I'm going to be close, but not quite there. So 149, I'm almost there. Hope nobody gets seasick. 151, 52, and there we are. We are at the mid-module assessment. Now, before you take a look at this, what I want you to think about is, this is for 4th grade. And 4th grade begins, most students are about 9 years old. A couple of them are starting to turn 10. And so when we take a look at this, I would really like for you to take a look at it like a 9-year-old, not a college graduate, not a teacher, all right? Now, while you're taking a look at it, I want you to think about what's going to be difficult for the kids. And so therefore, what for you as a teacher do you need to make sure that you are doing? So let's take a look. So step 1, they're going to arrange the following numbers in order from least to greatest. Now, we are a Title I school district. And as a Title I school district, it's very important that you read the test to the children so that when it's time for state assessments, they roll around. One of the questions that will be asked of you by your instructional coaches, are you almost always reading the test to your students? And if you're like, no, not very often, why? Well, then it's going to be more difficult for your students to qualify for what's called a read aloud test. So you need to get in the habit from day 1 of reading aloud the math problems. On top of that, this is math, this is not reading. So we're not trying to trick them with the vocabulary. A large percentage of our students are EL, English language learners. And so we need to make sure that we're not letting the English language get in the way of any of our learners. Also, perhaps some of your children who are a little bit lower in learning, if they could just hear it out loud, maybe they would get it. So again, let's take a look at this. Arrange. You know, that's going to be a difficult word right there. You might turn to the kids and say, what does it mean to arrange? And so it means to put something in an order or put it into a certain type of a grouping. So the following numbers in order from least to greatest. And again, we have a large population of students that are EL. So we need to pause and say, okay, what does least mean? Because we want to set our kids up for success, not failure. So let's get the vocabulary out of the way so they can focus on the math, focus on the numbers. And so as a teacher, this is underneath my document camera. It's showing up on my Promethean board. I'm going to go over there and above the word least, I'm going to write small. Okay, to the greatest. What does greatest mean? And so the kids are like, well, if that one's small, this one must be big. And so I'm going to write big or biggest. And so now the kids will need to look at the numbers and read the numbers on their own. And again, they're going to arrange them. I'm going to read it again from the least to the greatest. Take a look at this for a moment. What do you see that you think is going to be difficult for the kids? Right, our two least numbers, our two smaller numbers are using the numbers 4 and 5 and 0. And so the kids, I think they're going to be pretty successful in figuring out that 4,450 is the least. And the second one, I think they're going to get it. And so again, the way Eureka Math starts out as is they want everybody to feel comfortable climbing to that first rung. Second rung, it's starting to get a little bit more challenging. But now let's take a look at the next step. They're working with two numbers. I'm sorry, my dog has on a collar and is shaking, so I hope that jingle's not getting too recorded. Let's take a look at the numbers, the third number and the fourth number that they will need to arrange. Both of them begin with a 5 and then a 0. And so the kids will need to go to the thousands place value to figure out which one is larger than the other. And then when you get down to the tens and the ones place value, take a look. They're both a 5 and a 4, and then reverse a 4 and a 5. That one's plenty difficult for our students. Now let's go to letter B. Use the words. Oh my goodness, they're going to have to use the words. So that tells me we're going to have to write. Let's take a look at this. Use the word 10 times to tell how you ordered the two smallest numbers. Take a look at this now, using words, pictures, or numbers. And so you're going to have to teach the kids in those first 3 lessons, all right, those first 3 topics, excuse me, how to use their words, how to draw, and how to use pictures, how to use numbers to get to the answer. And so a style that Eureka Math teaches is called read, and then you draw, and then you write something to get to the answers. And so that's something you're really going to have to stress. So RDW, read, draw, write to get to the answers. Now remember, we read the standard that even talked about 10 times greater and 10 times less, right? So now let's take a look at number 2. A number 2, this is where they're using greater than, lesser than, and equal to. Take a moment and look at this. And again, think about this. Pretend you're 9 years old. What is challenging about this? Okay, now think about this as the classroom teacher. What are you going to do? How are you going to teach this back in, I believe that was topic B, if I remember correctly, where it talked about comparing the numbers. So what are you going to need to do here? Well, let's take a look at the very first one. It says 100,000. I would make sure that I would have the kids write that actually as a number, not just, oh yeah, it's 100,000. I would have them use maybe the template and draw out over here on the right-hand side, perhaps draw out a template and actually put it in. So draw in the representational. Let's take a look. Let's come down to letter C. Take a look at this one. So your place values are not even in order, and they're putting in the plus sign, the addition sign. So they've turned it into an algorithm. So take a look. We have 700s. We have 4,000s. We have 27 ones. They didn't even break that into 2 10s and 7 ones. My gosh, I would for sure be stressing the need of drawing out the template and putting this on the template so that they made this number correctly. So we have the thousands, we have the hundreds, and by showing 27 ones, they took, again, the tens out of the picture. And so the kids need to be able to go, oh, that means I have 2 tens and 7 ones when they're putting it on the template. Take a look at this one down here on letter D. We have 10 hundred thousands. So this is going to be very tricky for the kids. Again, think about this as the classroom teacher. What is it that you need to be teaching to your students? Let's slide on down. This is number 3. And so number 3, it's broken into section A, B, C, D, and E. This is a really long math problem. Very long math problem. What you need to come to a consensus with the other teachers of your grade level when you give a math problem like this is sometimes a math problem, if you don't do it correctly, let's say on letter C, it would be very difficult to get it then correct on letter D. And so you need to come to a consensus of if they get D incorrect, so now they come down to C, if they use those same numbers and they use greater than, lesser than, and equal than correctly, is it wrong that they use the wrong numbers? Okay, so you would need to come to a consensus. That's why it's so important that you do this ahead of time. You talk about it before you actually teach it. Let's take a look at 3A. The football stadium at Louisiana State University has a seating capacity of 92,542. All right, most of our children in 501 know that a football stadium is that field out on the playground. They don't know it as a stadium like maybe you and I know it. And so, and Louisiana State, where's Louisiana? What's this Louisiana State University thing? You know, they know KU, they know K-State, they know Washburn, but Louisiana State University? And then take a look, seating capacity of 92,542. That's beyond understanding. So right away, I would go up and I would go to Google and I would type in LSU football stadium, there it is. And I would bring up images of it and let the kids see. We'll go with this picture right here. All right, kiddos, that is the LSU. See the letters right there even? LSU stands for Louisiana State. I'd go to my map, show them where Louisiana is. This is a really big college. Now do you understand? Seating means how many chairs are at this football stadium, the stadium right here. So 92,000, I don't remember the exact number, people can sit down right here and watch a football game. Now the kids have a better idea in their head as to what does this football stadium look like and what in the world does 92,000 people look like. Here's another picture from another angle. And so it's just kind of fun to show the kids what this looks like. It gives them a better idea of what 92,000 looks like. The LSU football stadium. Now let's go back to the math problem. So now the kids kind of got the idea of what this LSU football stadium looks like. Let's look at letter A. According to the 2010 census, oh my gosh, 2010 was 10 years ago. Census, how many 9-year-olds know what a census is? And so you would probably need to stop and kind of chat about what is a census. The population of San Jose, California. Wait a minute, we were just in Louisiana. Now we're in California? Again, go to that map, show them where California is at. Was approximately 10 times the amount of people at the LSU stadium can seat. So what was the population of San Jose in 2010? And so I would chat here with the kids and say, I just want you to think, if the population, and of course you're going to have to talk to them about what the word population means, so the number of people who live in this city right here called San Jose, California, is 10 times greater than the amount of people that can go to this football game, is that number going to be larger or is that number going to be smaller? Think about that when you do this math problem. All right. And then write the seating capacity of LSU Stadium. Take a look at this in words in expanded form. Again, two things you're going to have to teach the kids: word form and expanded form. Draw two separate number lines to round the LSU Stadium seating capacity to the nearest 10. Take a look at this, nearest 10,000 and to the nearest 1,000. Now the trick on this one is going to be right here. So many of our students will want to round to the nearest 10. They cranked it up by putting the word 1,000 on the next line. So make sure you're pointing that out to your students, to the nearest 10,000 and to the nearest 10 and to the nearest 1,000. So two different number lines. Now they're going to compare the rounded numbers. And so that's where we were just talking. If they're going to compare these two rounded numbers, what if your kids rounded these incorrectly? But they took those two numbers now, they rounded the 10,000 to the 10,000s, but incorrectly. They rounded to the nearest 1,000, but incorrectly. They bring those two numbers down to D, but they compare them, greater than, lesser than, and equal to, they compare them correctly. Is it wrong? And so you need to talk about this to the other people in your grade level. Some grade level, some teachers are going to say, yes, they used the wrong numbers. Even if they did compare them correctly, it's wrong. Me, maybe I'm too easy. As long as they have two numbers and they compare them correctly, I'd say they got it right, but that would be my view. Everybody has a different view, but you need to be on the same page with the other teachers of your that you teach with. So which estimate, rounding to the nearest 10,000 or nearest 1,000, is more accurate? Use words and numbers to explain. And so they're going to have to explain to you why I think this one is more accurate. And that's the test. So now you see why it is so important that you look at this before you teach it. Now you've got a better idea in your mind as to what you need to say, what you need to do in order for your students to be successful. These are the three standards that you're going to be focusing on. And so the first one is that 10 times greater, 10 times less. MBT2, this is where you're comparing greater than, equal to, and lesser than. And then MBT3 is rounding to any place. Those are your three standards that you're going to focus on. They give you, again, a rubric to see how well did the student do. If they did all of this down here in step 4, they got all 4 points. Well, if they got part of it right, is it wrong that they didn't get the whole thing right? And so it's giving you, here's how you could earn 3 points, 2 points, and 1 point. And so they have this for each of the math problems. Okay? All right. All right, let's go back up to the beginning. So I think I want to take you to page 3. Let's see if it will let me take you there. Sorry about this. Take you to 10, they'll get us close. All right. It was being stubborn. All right, and so after I look over the module, after I take that mid-module assessment, it's giving me a really good idea as to, holy cow, what do I need to teach? And so now I'm going to go to the actual module. And so this is topic A, place value of multi-digit whole numbers, okay? And so I am going to take a look. We have 4 lessons to do. We're going to cover standards MBT1 and MBT2. I have 4 lessons, like I said. And now I'm going to go to topic B. This is the comparing the two numbers, okay, or more than 2 numbers, greater than, lesser than, and equal to. I have 2 lessons to teach this in. So 2 lessons to teach 1 standard. I'm going to come down to topic C. I now have 4 lessons, but take a look at this. It says 7 days. That's including your mid-module assessment, okay? So a day to prepare for it, a day to give it, and a day to remediate or to talk about it afterwards. Let's go back up now to lesson 1. And so I talked about that the way that things are set up in Eureka Math is this CRA method. So going from a concrete, something that you can actually touch and manipulate. And so for this particular unit, it's going to be a template. It's going to be place value number discs. And then you go to representational. And so representational means you're going to draw it. And then you're going to go to abstract. And abstract means you're going to write something. And so take a look at lesson 4. You're going to write multi-digit numbers. Okay, they're number names and the expanded form. Remember that even on that mid-module assessment. I'm just going to bring up one of these lessons. How about if we even bring up lesson 4? All right, when I bring this up, over here on the right, it tells me it's going to take about 60 minutes to teach this lesson. And almost every single lesson does take 60 minutes, so 1 hour. Here is the full lesson as to how it appears in the teacher's book. I click on that PDF. This is exactly how it appears in the teacher's book. Here's that fluency section. It's going to take me about 13 minutes. Remember that fluency section is how MBT 1 is going to be taught throughout Eureka Math. And so we really want to focus that when we do this particular one, that we focus on this numbers expressed in different base units. And it's going to take us 8 minutes to teach that. It's going to give us all the directions on how to do each of these. So here it is right here. It tells me what materials I need. Here's a note, pay attention to this particular part. Gives you an idea of what the teacher, what you can say, and what you hope that the students will say in return. All right, and something I want to point out while we're right here is, I can walk into classrooms across the school district and I see teachers walking around and holding this big heavy book, and they're reading out of the book, hoping that this is exactly, if I say this, then the kids will say that. You need to read this ahead of time, like last night before you teach it today kind of thing. I would take then sticky notes and I would come up with a good 3 or 4 things. I want to make sure I say this. And I put those sticky notes up on my Promethean board. And the kids would get used to seeing those sticky notes up there. And Mrs. Kimsey, what is it you're going to point out today? Just don't let me forget, those are up there. Please don't carry around your book and read out of the book. The kids need you to be focused on them. And by you having your head down and reading the book, you're telling your students, you didn't come to class today prepared. We're wanting our kids to be prepared. We need to be prepared too. Please put the book down. Focus on teaching your students. You've already read this. You know the good 3 or 4 points that you want to make sure you get across to your kids today. You've put those on yellow sticky notes. They're up there on the Promethean board. All right, guys, question number 1. I want to make sure that we go over this. All right, say it to them. Go put it down on your desk now. And then later, put it into your math book and adjust it if you need to adjust it. This was a great question. This was a worthless question. All right. And so this is the teacher's module. And I love how it gives you examples of what it is that you need to be drawing as well. So this is the application problem, which is my favorite part of the math book. I love doing this. These are the real world math problems. And today, this is your application problem. There are 41,000 Asian elephants and about 470,000 African elephants left in the world. About how many Asian and African elephants are left in total? And so it's giving you a great way. This is a representation of how to do the addition problem by using place value discs instead of writing it out as a traditional algorithm. And so this is just a great way of doing it. Again, here's your concept development. This is the time where it's going to take you about 26 minutes to teach this lesson. Here's a dialogue. Again, you're not carrying around the math book, okay? Put it down. Your focus needs to be on your students and teaching this concept. Here is one of those notes to say, hey, you might want to pay attention over here. This is maybe something that would help a student who is struggling. And sometimes it is, here's something to help a student to extend this lesson. And then take a look right here. It says, allow English language learners their language of choice for expressing number words. It's about the math, not about reading and writing in American English, okay? And so, again, it gives the importance of teaching with templates. And this is all in your teacher math books. Then it gets into the student debrief. And this is when, okay, now you've taught the lesson. Let's bring the kids all back together and say, all right, guys, what did you think was kind of difficult today? Or what did you think was the easiest part today? So doable. And then, all right, so now we need to do the exit slip. So I'm going to come back out here. And so that's a full lesson. And here it is, the full lesson. And I'm going to talk to you about the problem set, the exit tickets, and homework. Down below here, it breaks up your lesson into the 4 main areas. So the fluency section, so I can click right here, and it's going to take me to fluency, step 1, step 2, step 3. Now what you're also going to notice is there's a little video camera right here. So there's a video on how to do skip counting. And this is how to do skip counting the Eureka way. I also want to point out that over here on the right, here's a video, how to teach Eureka, grade 4, module 1, and this is for lessons 3 and 4. So if you're reading this and you're looking at it going, this seems a little confusing to me, I would watch these videos and find out, how does Eureka Math suggest that you teach this? And so it should take you, with skip counting, 3 minutes. Those videos are for you, the teacher. These are not videos for the children. You will also notice that this is something that you're reviewing that had to do with 3rd grade. Now you're doing place value. It's going to take you about 2 minutes to do. And take a look. The kids are going to need their whiteboards, and they're going to need, it looks like a place value chart all the way to the millions. All right. And I oftentimes, again, I would get a sleeve and have, those page protectors, and put that down into the page protector and let the kids draw on top of it, right on top of it. And then they're going to do the numbers expressed in different base units. This is going to take 8 minutes. Again, take a look. That's where that numbers base 10, number 1 is being taught. After you teach it, you can come down here and type in your notes. Here's what worked. Here's what didn't work. Make sure that next year I do this and I don't do that. And then we get into the application problem. Again, this is my favorite part. I love it. It's a real world math problem. And what it typically does is it's going to stretch their brains. And so this is how they recommend. This is the Eureka way of recommending how to do it. So the representational, draw it out. It's representational because it's showing how we're circling 10 and bringing it over, showing that regrouping, okay? It's so important to teach the kids about that comma. I always had my kids put the comma right up here, that numbers travel in groups of 3, the ones, tens, hundreds, and then it repeats, ones, tens, hundreds. And that comma just represents the last name for that group. So 511,000, all right? So it's teaching the kids to throw in that last name. And it's also showing the importance of, well, 41,000 Asian, so the writing out, so the read, draw, write, 470,000 African. And so altogether, we're talking about elephants. And so it's setting it up in an algorithm for the students. All right, so that took us about 6 minutes to do. It takes some training to get to that. And again, it's so important. You are to read this to the students. So there are about 41,000 Asian elephants. Holy cow, that would make a lot of noise. Can you imagine hearing all those elephants thundering as they walk or as they run? And 470,000 African elephants left in the world. Do you know how to tell the difference between an Asian elephant and an African elephant? So you could talk to the kids about that. About how many Asian and African elephants are left in total? All right, so left in total. What are we doing here, kiddos? Are we adding or are we subtracting? All right, I think I would definitely use a template. So I would get out a template, I would label this 41,000. Maybe I would help them by getting that 41 going, right? And then I would have the kids, all right, now you do it from here with the, what was the other one? The African elephants being at 470,000, and let them do that part. So set them up for success. Now it's time for what we call the concept development. This will take you about 16 minutes to teach this, and then they will do what is called the problem set. And the problem set is the actual math in their math book. And we will talk about that in the next lesson on how to decide which problems the children must do, which ones they could do, and which ones would be an extension to the learning, okay? And then the last part again is the student debrief. We're all going to come back together, and for about 12 minutes, we're going to go over that lesson objective again. And this is a time for the students to do more of the talking than you. You could set them up with a question, have them turn to their partner and talk about it. And then you're going to give them the exit slip. So let's take a look at the exit ticket. This is in their math book. And this is the reason that you're teaching the lesson. You need to know these exit tickets before you teach the lesson. This is what the kids need to be able to do when this lesson is over. All right, I'll give you a moment to take a look at that. Let me expand it there a little bit. So they must be able to label the chart. And so this starts out, the CRA I did, the concrete. And so here's the chart. Most of our kids are going to be successful putting in ones, tens, hundreds. They're going to be a little foggy going beyond that. Thousands, And so you set them up for success. Where in the room could they go to find this answer? Do you have a chart on each child's desk that might help them? Now they're going to write the numbers, the number 800,000 plus 6,000 plus 300 plus 2 in the place value chart. And then they're going to write the number, take a look at this, in word form. And so we have the expanded form and the word form. And again, you saw that that's on the mid-module assessment. Now come down to number 2. Write 160,582 in expanded form. And so this time what we're doing is, number 1 has it in expanded form. Number 2 has it in word form. So they flip-flop the 2 math problems. And so I would point that out to the kids. I would tell them to use the template to help them answer the question. That this is the reason for this particular lesson. This is your focus. This is your objective. All right. All right. So it is oh so important that you read everything to the kids. You're setting them up for success. This helps with your English language learners. This helps tremendously for your kids who process a little slower maybe. They read it, but then they need to think about it. But by hearing it being read aloud, it helps tremendously. And that's what we want to do for the kids. We don't want the reading to get in the way of their success. And that is so important. So please be aware of that. All right. Well, that is our introduction to Eureka Math. Every single math lesson, whether it's pre-K or 5th grade or 12th grade, is set up in the exact same way. And it leaves behind for you, if you will, kind of like cookie crumbs. And so I'm on lesson 4. I'm in topic A. Takes me back to topic A. I'm in module 1. It takes me back to everything about module 1. I'm in grade 4. And so that's this particular view. Here are your individual lessons. And yes, I'm in Eureka Math. And so it takes us back to here. All right, my friends. Again, I'm Diane Kimsey, and I am your consulting math teacher for pre-K through 5th grade. And I look forward to sharing more with you yet this week. So thank you very much and enjoy the rest of your day. All right, and I'm going to stop the video there. All right, thank you. Bye-bye.